Some interesting lessons that you're going to take with you in your arsenal of toolkits for the future. It's really great to be here on this day, and it was really great to spend a lot of time with you. I think many of you at dinner last night. I really enjoyed it. So I have 66 slides. If you're bored, you can count, and you'll know I'll get towards the end. But television and Italian television are my obsession, so I'm happy to talk with you about this today. So my talk on Italian television abroad builds upon a book I just published a few months ago called Watching Sympathetic Perpetrators on Italian Television, Gomorrah and Beyond, that treats recent Italian serial television, looking a lot at audiences, their viewing preferences, and understudied topics such as acting and performance. With a special focus, I'm really interested on how these programs were received both in Italy and internationally. So what do viewers think about them? I was principally interested in the processes at work, both in and around these series, that might prompt viewers across the globe, and you just mentioned this, to root for really difficult, horrible men, right, who do horrible, awful things, but yet we like them, right? For the most part, I'm interested in audiences, so I'd love to hear your impressions here, and how audiences, in particular in Italy and the US, receive and comprehend these shows. So, Paolo Sorrentino's The New Pope will premiere on HBO imminently. I checked, it's still not there yet. I just checked today. The New Pope is an HBO Sky joint production and a follow-up to The Young Pope, which was a transnational hit, thanks to its star casting, including Jude Law and Diane Keaton, high production values, contemporary socio-political relevance, intriguing musical score, and international distribution model, right? That's partnering with Italy and the US is something we'll talk about today with some of these shows as well. This is one example of how Italian television is no longer confined to national borders. As noted in a recent article in Variety, I quote, "The global rise of Italian TV series is now in full swing, thanks in great part to the international successes of these and other series. So Subura, The Young Pope, 1992, My Brilliant Friend, Baby, which I just watched the first episode of season 2 at the gym today, so I'm really excited about that. Romanzo Criminale and Gomorrah all have screened or streamed on HBO, Sundance, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, etc. So all of this speaks to these series' transnational appeal and growing international fan base. Many of Italy's most popular exported series feature alluring and attractive criminal anti-heroes and offer fictionalized accounts of historical events and figures. And this isn't the case in the US. For the most part, things are based on invented facts and things. In particular, these Sky and Netflix series highlight the routine violence of daily life of the mafia, the police force, and politics. And although content is frequently dark and violence is, as you saw in Gomorrah and Subura, were really common, Sky and Netflix have made an international name for themselves in presenting Italian tragedy in a format that's visually pleasurable and for many across the globe, including myself, highly addictive. Today, I'm going to look at 3 recent popular Italian TV products that have secured a broad viewership in and outside of Italy, programs that premiered on 3 different networks or viewing platforms. So first, I'll talk about Gomorrah, that premiered in 2014 on the Italian pay TV network Sky to an unsurpassed network viewership in Italy, and address the series' kind of local and global appeal, what makes it popular to both Italians, so it's culturally specific, it's regional, and it's also international. Then I turned towards Italy's first made-for-Netflix series, Subura, available in 2017 to Netflix subscribers worldwide, and discussed the series' appeal to queer and gay spectators. And here my target is social media. And it's great to work on TV, especially contemporary popular TV, because I get to look at Twitter and Facebook and Instagram as my primary sources. So a lot of people think that that's not cool. I say no, it's fabulous. To conclude, I'll spend most of my time today providing a counterexample to the kind of hyper-masculine narratives that we've seen in those first 2 series by addressing casting and the creation of what I'm calling authentic stardom in the HBO Rai co-production, My Brilliant Friend. And this centers on female friendship. Has anyone seen this? Okay. It's really, really great. It's on HBO, if anyone has access to that. And I'm trying not to give too many spoilers, so I'll try to be really careful with that. So to start with Gomorrah, with its 4th installment, Gomorrah la serie is even more popular in and outside of Italy. It's the most watched series in the history of Italian pay TV, and show rights have been purchased in 190 countries, and there are 206 sovereign states in the world, so those are like really good viewing odds. Lots of people are watching this. It's dubbed by Variety as Italy's answer to The Wire, while Sight and Sound declares it Italy's answer to Breaking Bad. Has anyone seen either The Wire or Breaking Bad? And the Hollywood Reporter announces that the series provide proof that America does not have a lock on quality dramas. So this kind of Gomorrah phenomenon, as a lot of people and myself call it, has totally gone global. A survey I conducted on teaching Gomorrah reveals that it's taught in the university classroom with increasing frequency, including this group here. I discovered that the series, and this is a big thing, as you know, people didn't really teach Italian TV at all, really, some years ago. And so I'm really happy that people are taking this as like serious business. I discovered that the series, from a few episodes to an entire season, is included as course content in tons of institutions of higher learning throughout the world, and is offered at undergraduate and graduate levels. And many count towards the university's GE, or general education, or core requirement in Italian screenwriting or cinema and media studies. So the series also has a wide audience in kind of the international academic setting. Gomorrah is an emblematic program for discussing the premium television platform Sky. And Sky is the closest to HBO, I guess, in the US. The Sky model entails original, innovative, and experimental programming that's cutting edge in its production values, allows for creative freedom from like the best in the business, the best directors out there or showrunners, and speaks to an audience who is attentive to quality and wants to have kind of a unique television experience. Placing audience taste in content, or in agency, front and center in the viewing encounter recalls what Amanda Lotz defines as the 5 C's as the post-network era: choice, control, convenience, customization, and community. And to this we can add, more recently, curation. If I don't know if any of you are like me, you can curate your own network thing, and there's so much stuff out there you have to choose, and sometimes it's overwhelming. Does anyone have a problem choosing what to watch all the time? So because there's just ever available, like increasingly available onslaught of programming, so it's kind of, for me, it could be like, so just Google, my friends will show you. Sky creates material that's methodically conceived, executed, scheduled, and marketed, and the kind of boutique nature of the Sky lineup maximizes what some Italian TV scholars call, they said, a return on investment, because it entices viewers who are interested in programming that diverges from more mainstream prototypes. Sky shows are, for the most part, in line with series dubbed as quality television, and I just picked the 3 earliest HBO series that kind of launched this idea of quality television in the late 90s, that kind of, if you remember HBO's model, it's not TPV, it's HBO, right? We're doing something totally different than here. So quality, and I'm kind of thinking of it not as one show is better than other, but it's a way to group things together. So it's kind of like a discursive assemblage in such a sense. So the debated quality label can be applied to programs made over the last 20 years that generally have high production values, are innovative in terms of casting, dialogue, soundtrack, and storylines, and are narratively complex. And narrative complexity kind of hooks us, I think some of us, and wants us to keep watching. Such original programming engages viewers who are hungry for sophisticated content, and at least me, I can then feel sophisticated because I've engaged with such sophisticated content. Some of the main features of the Sky model that are characteristic of Gomorrah are this thing I've mentioned a little bit, empathetic relativism, which is the viewer's willingness to align themselves with villainous men and women, high production values, naturalistic performance style, stylistic integrity, so urban settings in Rome, Milan, Naples, and Venice, and interesting casting choices. These tropes are familiar to American series such as The Sopranos, The Wire, Mad Men, and Breaking Bad, and there's all sorts of others as well. It's noteworthy that Sky Programming is interested in revisiting Italian history, and I won't go into this too much, but in the case of Gomorrah, these are all actual things and actual people and actual organized crime groups that, you killed and are still killing, and wounded and are still wounding people in actual history. So this makes Italy a bit unique. In addition to placing a focus on actual crime networks that brought about and still, in many cases, still cause grief and pain, Many Sky programs unambiguously place good-looking anti-heroes at the narrative core. Like, these guys are good-looking, and that's not the case with few exceptions in the American tradition. I'll think of Tony Soprano, for example, and Walter White, right? they're very
we talked about whether or not Tony Soprano was good-looking in our class.
Oh!
Yeah.
So, yeah. Verdict?
No.
Conventionally good, but intriguing, fascinating, alluring?
Intriguing, yes.
Yeah, alluring. That guy has the Italian word flash, you know. He has like this thing that pulls you in. It's this. But Tony Soprano, these guys are not, right? So these men all conform to what I call a sympathetic perpetrator anti-hero template. They experience a loss, trauma, or injustice at an early age. They're charismatic, good at what they do, live exciting lives, and are relatively smart and cunning. They love deeply and suffer profoundly. Chiro cries constantly. You saw him cry a bunch, but he just doesn't stop crying, and it just gets worse as the series go on. They're surrounded by friends and family and are sexually attractive to a variety of women, and they have a sense of inner justice, albeit a very morally perplexing one, right? Like Dexter, we were talking about that last night. He has a sense of inner justice. He has to kill someone every episode, but he believes in it, right? With one exception, it's clear in Gomorrah, they're less bad than their friends and enemies and experience deep homosocial relationships with criminal peers. And this idea of there's always someone else who's worse than them, right? So that's a good way to forgive. And so when you're watching your next show, see if some of these things kind of flesh out in there. So this is especially the case, I think, and I'm obsessed with Chiro, I apologize for that. With vocal anti-hero Chiro, in one reviewer's words, internationally there's a fixation with Chiro even more so than in Italy. Italian sympathetic perpetrators are no longer confined to national screens. Sky and Netflix TV series focusing on national criminality and in particular organized crime are plentiful and growing rapidly in popularity. And this is interesting because Italy's mafias, as you guys know, are actual, deadly, kind of growing. They're not going away. And here's just a few things I pulled up, I think 2 weeks ago. The mafia is always in the newspaper in Italy and in the US, right? So a daily look at the paper reveals stories of corruption, clan wars, raids, drug busts, and homicides, which are mafia related. And so the average person in Italy knows, and in the US, for the most part, knows the mafia exists and is pretty powerful. Dom Holdaway, an Italian film scholar, says that the recent turn to quality Italian mafia films signals, he says, not only a shift in the social meaning of the mafia, but moreover, that this subject matter has affirmed itself as a profitable and exportable image of Italy's dark side. So you can kind of talk about the mafia as you do with soccer, the Catholic Church, opera. They're things that kind of export it to a really broad public. And I know you guys have watched some of these, but here's just a few examples of this recent kind of turn to the mafia. And I find it fascinating that spectators in Italy enjoy re-experiencing Italy's painful recent past and present in the safety and comfort of their own homes in forms that kind of invite compulsive viewing habits. But at the same time, as I think you guys have talked about, protests against these shows are really common. So they're super popular, but people are protesting about them. And I'm really interested in that tension. I don't think it's resolvable, but it's something that I think is really interesting to explore. Like, there's mayors, stakeholders, victims, families, etc. are protesting them. Does that add to their popularity? What's going on there? Sky and Netflix have been successful in producing local crime content with an appeal to global audiences. In particular, they imported a model into Italy. Come in.
He's coming.
Okay.
A
model into Italy that had worked well and it attracted audiences in the US. Oh, the cannoli are back. Series featuring likable criminal anti-heroes. And they also added a twist to this model, a focus on conventionally physically attractive perpetrators who are engaged in these actual crime acts. The popularity of a program like Gomorrah results from several factors. For example, it offers viewers a window into Italy's tainted history in pleasurable narrative forms. It focuses on organized crime, which we know is a subject with international selling power. That's attracting viewers across the globe. It engages with several grand narratives such as romance, coming of age, family drama, etc. And it fosters kind of viewer alignment, right? Through depicting attractive and complex sympathetic perpetrators who are constructed to warrant viewer sympathies, not because of, but despite all of their criminal activities. So, and it's really interesting, this kind of phenomenon of programming when you think of Sky's upcoming lineup. A few things are coming out soon. 000 is an adaptation of Roberto Saviano's expose about the international cocaine trade and stars Gabriel Byrne and is shot in English, French, Spanish, Italian, and Wolof. So this is like super transnational. And then also forthcoming is Devils, which I cannot wait to see. I'm obsessed with Alessandro Borghi. And so if anyone's on Twitter, you can hashtag Borghi studies because we're trying to get the word out. More attention needs to be spent researching this man. And this is an intercontinental financial crisis saga that's shot in English. So with these international casts and global storylines, Sky has made quite the business of kind of serial perpetrators in Italy and internationally. Now to part two, I want to talk a little bit about Suburra, which is Italy's first made-for-Netflix original production and premiered globally on Netflix in October of 2017. While the second season dropped on February 22nd, 2019, and the third is coming out really soon. The series is a prequel to the 2015 film and 2013 novel, both with the same name, and takes place, as you guys know who watched the first 2 episodes or more, in 2008, focusing on the machinations around a corrupt land deal in the seaside town of Ostia. So players include venal politicians, the corrupt Vatican, and others, and organized crime syndicates kind of battling for control in the Eternal City. However, the series' main narrative focus, I think, at least that's what I follow the most of, is on these 3 guys, right? As they bond and clash and bond again, as they kind of come of age on the streets of Rome. Netflix, which as of like 2 weeks ago, I think, is under investigation for tax evasion in Italy, so I don't know how that's going to play out, we'll see. Came out in Italy on October 22nd, 2015, where it was promoted with this affable hashtag Ciao Netflix, which is so cute. And publicity campaigns strove to attract subscribers with the promise of unprecedented choice and convenient access to high-quality film and TV programs, many of which are original content. Solima's 2015 film Suburra premiered in theaters in October and streamed in Netflix on the premiere day. And this is something that now is kind of normal that we see, like what's the film that everyone's all up in arms about that is coming out in Netflix?
Irishman.
Yeah, The Irishman. That's causing a lot of angst with people. But so now this is more common, but this was a really big kind of revolutionary marketing trick. So, and then their innovative marketing strategy amped up prior to the premiere of the series and focused on the central trio composed of Aureliano Adami, Alberto Spadino Anacletti, and Gabriele Delle Archigli, foregrounding in particular Aureliano, most likely for Borghi's kind of blossoming star status, as well as the homosocial bond between Aureliano and Spadino, a bond that really intensifies in throughout season 1, as Spadino's attraction to Aureliano is totally obvious. Spadino, I think, represents the first ever gay sympathetic perpetrator protagonist on Italian small screens. And he's represented in positive terms that prompt viewers to internationally root for him, especially in the first season. Before Spadino, most gay characters on Italian TV were cast in minor roles, they were represented incredibly negatively, or they were stereotyped and frequently killed off, or punished in some way. Spadino instead is a central protagonist with a developed arc. He suffers, loves, cries, they all cry, and is funny and good looking, and he has a very, very interesting fashion sense. And Rebecca Bauman's working on him, his fashion sense, it's really great. He possesses many of the same qualities that might prompt viewers to positively align with other future anti-heroes like Chio from Gomorrah or Don Draper from Mad Men. So it's this kind of charisma and craftiness. On social media, Netflix is quite open to foregrounding Spadino's sexuality, drawing attention to the Spadino-Aureliano bond. On Valentine's Day 2019, Has anyone seen Call Me By Your Name, about a Mima film? Okay. Netflix posted this to the series Facebook page that was modeled after publicity material for Luca Guadagnino's 2017 transnational queer coming-of-age film, Call Me By Your Name, and features Spadino and Aureliano staring out towards viewers under the title Call Me By Your Name, Amalia. Endorsements on the poster include the love story, la storia d'amore che è riuscita a commuovere anche i cuori più duri, quasi meo di una carbonara, etc., which recalls an episode in the first season where the homoerotic nature of the pair's bond is most palpable as they share a thermal bath and dine on a plate of pasta, the carbonara. And these moments are international favorites for fans across the world who ship for the pair. There also exist several paratexts, including promotional by Netflix and fan videos, and I wish I had time to show them to you because they're so amazing. If you want, I can send you the links to check them out. So, and they feature the pair, and user comments around them are uniformly incredibly positive. Every so often you'll have some homophobic comment, but it's very, very minor. Like other recent Italian programs featured on Sky, Subura has an appeal to viewers both in and outside of Italy. This fan base is due to the series' focus on the Italian dark heart narrative, which is a rich history in Italian film and TV, together with plot lines that develop the bromances and romantic lives of the three central anti-heroes in a format that boasts high production values, star actors such as Borghi, a contemporary soundtrack, and filming locations in Rome and some of Rome's most recognizable areas. So who's watching? Because I think that's really important. Who's the audience for these? As many of you probably know, we have no idea because Netflix, like Amazon Prime and like everything else, won't tell us. They control all of their viewing data so that they can individually curate and not share. And people get really mad about this. Netflix has 1.5 million subscribers in Italy and 139 internationally. So the best data source, again, is social media. I consulted probably about 3,000 posts, fan blogs, and fan videos relating to the first season, and clear in the reception of the series' first season, fans worldwide root for Spadino and endorse this bond, Spadino-Aureliano bond, which opens up, I think, really interesting channels for a more revolutionary representation and reception practice of the series' potentially queer position. However, the second season of Subura, and I'm trying not to spoil here, presents challenges with regards to the series' potentially progressive depiction of gay and queer characters and themes. Included is a focal plotline surrounding illegal migrants and extreme right-wing politics, which lends a contemporary feel to the series, considering what's happening up until very recently in Italy, with the then government's kind of hard-out stand against illegal immigration, and the current U.S. president's contemporary hardline anti-immigration stance. So, as a result, the series in season 2 feels a whole lot more political. Two storylines that run throughout season 2 also problematize the series' earlier enlightened position with regards to queer and gay sexuality. So Spadino does get married, and his wife is pregnant. That's all I'm going to spoil for you. And then Spadino also has kind of this covert relationship that I won't go into because I don't want to spoil it here. And this is kind of my favorite hysterical, it's so campy episode, and it would be a great example of queer baiting if you're familiar with that term. Spadino tells Aureliano that he's expecting a child and he's seeing someone on the side. Aureliano's like super happy, and they go crib shopping together. So they go shop for cribs together, and it's very like, it's all very serious. So it's humorous. Like their shopping for the crib is serious. They take it very seriously. It's humorous that inscribes normativity into the friendship while saying like they will never be like that, right? That he's going to have a kid and they're going to be friends. However, in season 1, I think the Spadino storyline marks a revolution in the representation of LGBTQ characters in Italian TV programming. At the same time, Subura engages viewers internationally who turn to Netflix and to Amazon Prime, which developed a reputation for producing serial dramas featuring sympathetic LGBTQ characters. So with Subura, which many people say is kind of a rip-off of Gomorrah, I think you can see a lot of similarities there. Netflix uses dependable production and marketing strategies to hook a sizable international viewership. With its overt queer and gay subtext, Support is pioneering in the representation of sex and gender on Italian small screens and appeals to viewers in and outside of Italy, but at the same time, the focus on the exploits of kind of a criminal band of brothers who attempt to make it big in Rome draws in fans of the Sky series Romanzo Criminale, which is kind of the first breakthrough Sky series that premiered in 2008. And then it really appeals to a local audience as well. So this is like kind of really an innovative marketing strategy, I think. I'm now going to turn to the popular HBO Rai co-production, My Brilliant Friend, that also secured, as you can guess I'm going to say, a very broad viewership outside of Italy. In writing my recent book, I was fascinated by comments from reviewers, showrunners, fans, actors, etc., debating the authenticity of representations of organized crime. So is it real, is it not? If it's real, then all the kids are going to run out and do it too. And this is something that happens all the time. And so these kind of debates sparked polemics and also drew in fans. And to this point, I want to address the understudied area of casting in relationship, which I'll talk about more in a bit, to the creation of this kind of authentic stardom of child and adolescent performers. And just really briefly, this is about two, you haven't seen this, it's about two young girls in 1950s Naples who are in a very, very impoverished neighborhood. They're very different. They're both incredibly gifted. They're brilliant. But they are living in very abusive environments. And they have this friendship that's special but also very conflictual. And in casting the series, they wanted non-professional actors. So this is huge. I'll talk about this casting process. But they wanted non-professional actors to make it seem as realistic as possible. It's shot in Italian, subtitled. When it premiered in Italy on HBO, it's subtitled. And they were ready to take the chance that it would work, and it did, because it's watched all over the place. So I want to talk about casting more broadly before focusing on the series casting practices, paying particular attention to two casting directors, Laura Muccino and Sara Casani, who I was able to interview in Rome last summer in their studio, and they let me take these pictures. It's like incredibly special. I interviewed them for about 6 hours, and it was amazing, all about casting. So my Brilliant Friend is the first installment of a 4-part series adapting Elena Ferrante's uber-international and popular Neapolitan novels, and premiered in November of 2018 and has attracted a sizable viewership, as you see here. And fan base in Italy, the US, and the UK. And as far as I can tell, broadcast rights have been secured in 130 countries, so not as much as Gomorrah's 190, but getting there. Reviewers and fans laud the series' particular take on female friendship and give praise for a realistic depiction of 1950 Naples. The series' authenticity, and I won't read all of these, and there's tons more. I can't even tell you how many they say authentic in every language possible, is a key feature of the vast majority of Anglophone reviews, which make mention of the use of Neapolitan dialect and the casting of non-professionals. For example, it's an authentic Italian production that was made in conjunction with HBO. Notably, the show was shot in Neapolitan dialect to make it as authentic as possible to the books. This authentic take on the first Neapolitan novel is the most honest and vivid portrait of the lives of young girls ever brought to TV. And here's comments directly related to casting. For example, in a throwback effort to authenticity, producers are looking for amateur child actors, 2 sets of girls in 8 and 15-year-old iterations, and then a large Annie-esque supporting cast of hard-knock lifers. Or, in case you haven't noticed it, the directors of My Brilliant Friend are all about authenticity, so their casting process should be no different. So, and this kind of anxiety about authenticity could be explained in part by anxieties around the authenticity of the identity of the novel's author. So Elena Ferrante is a pseudonym, and some people think they know who Elena Ferrante is, and people are on the lookout for Elena Ferrante, returning at every stone, and a lot of people have worked on this and not. So who's this person? And I think there's some sort of correlation between authenticity there. Clear in reviewer and fan reaction to the series, the stakes for getting it right are very, very high. And I read I don't know how many, every review I could locate in Italian or English, and this is just confirming. And many critic and fans tend to agree that the adaptation is a success. Most people think it's a success. There's a few detractors, but overwhelmingly positive. So a Google search for the title of the series plus neorealism, neorealismo, Rossellini, any kind of director around the Neorealist period, reveals hundreds of hits referencing the series' neorealist qualities and precursors. And in two sentences, if anyone know, I'm familiar with neorealism, I didn't study it. Okay, yay! So neorealism is a filmic movement from around 1943 to 1952, end of World War II, post-war, that's all like on-location shooting, non-professional actors, long takes, social political commentary to really get at the lived vitality of something. It's a call to arms to get people to stand up and fight the fight. Vanity Fair, Italia Defines My Brilliant Friend, is a neorealist series that De Sica, De Santis, and Rossellini would have fought to direct. Director of the series, Saverio Costanzo, compares its elaborate casting process to Visconti's Bellissima, which is another film that deals with casting and kind of precarious adolescence. And I think this gets to this point of, if you say that something's neorealist, then it's important. It's like there's this whole debate. It's a neorealist, something in neorealist legacy, et cetera, makes it like an important, serious, socially relevant type of topic. And so I'm particularly intrigued with the casting of the series as related to the so-called authenticity of its youthful characters, the actors who interpret them, who find themselves in the name of one reviewer, tra il sogno di Hollywood e l'ombra di Gomorrah, right? So it's all, they're cast right where Gomorrah is filmed, the series is filmed, but it's an international co-production, so you have like the Hollywood stakes in it as well. So this is kind of the beginning of this, of my research process, and I'm finding myself at the very beginning of my new book that's going to be called Casting Stardom, which will become, I'm hoping, a large-scale project on casting practices in the US and Italy, with a special attention dedicated to Italian TV. Scant scholarship exists in film and media studies that focuses on casting broadly considered, like barely any at all. It's very weird because casting is so important, that struck me. Including casting directors, locations, processes, and so on, even though, as Martin Scorsese has pointed out, more than 90% of getting the film right is the right casting. Without the right casting, you're just not getting it right. And casting is such a vital practice because you're at that moment where all of the most important film choices are made, some of the most important film choices are made that are then going to go on to have this afterlife of the film. And if you Google casting in your library database, most are how-to books, right? This is how you cast a film. And many of them, if not all of these, have a section on do not do a casting call in your house, on your own couch. Do not give the people you're casting alcoholic beverages. I am not kidding. These are things that are written very, very recently. They're like how-to, like do not touch or cast the people you're casting is me. I was reading this and I was like, this is insane. So what's available in mostly article form from the academic side of things approaches casting tangentially, focusing on typecasting, gender casting and cognitive science. The best book is this colorblind, this one, The Cultural Politics of Colorblind TV Casting, but she really only talks about 2 TV shows. One is Grey's Anatomy. Does anyone watch Grey's Anatomy? So Shonda Rhimes is revolutionary because she practices colorblind casting. She doesn't say, I want a person who looks like this or is of this gender, sexuality, or ethnicity. Just give me everyone and I'll choose. Most people do not do that. So, as noted by Kristen Warner, and this is a picture of Lucino when she was casting My Brilliant Friend, casting is important but highly under-researched because despite the willingness of scholars to interrogate kind of the ideological content of representations available on TV, they've expended relatively little effort to penetrate beyond the final product and examine the process by which actors come to inhibit these roles and how these industrial practices transfer dynamics from the street to the screen, and that's what I'm really interested in. And Muccino and Casani, that's Casani, had so much to say about this little boy that they really, really remembered in the casting process. So that's what I want to do. This is what my project aims to kind of fill this lacuna. What's the deal with casting? As I find it fascinating that the face behind the on-screen face is frequently out of the picture. As made clear by the president of the Casting Society of America, Richard Hicks, in explaining why casting directors, he says they're shortchanged in terms of respect. He notes, The job is so dynamic and hard to pin down, and so ripe for areas in which other people, generally directors, will take credit for it. Casting directors are integral to the success of a film, TV show, or theatrical production, and they're working at the front lines and coordinating with directors and showrunners. However, there's no Academy Award, for example, for best casting. There isn't any category. In the Italian context, in 2014, the Italian Union of Casting Directors lobbied and was able to create this Nathani d'Argento casting director category, which they're very proud of. Rare efforts have been made to recenter the significance of the casting process, especially with regard to, and this is what I'm most interested in, its gender dimension. Tom Donahue's 2012 documentary, Casting By, and that's his streaming for free online, it's super interesting, all sorts of famous people in it, features several blockbuster stars and directors who pay homage to the profession, such as Oliver Stone, who says casting has been severely neglected over the years. The documentary focuses on the work of pioneer female casting director Marianne Doherty, who is credited for revolutionizing the casting process as she listened to her instincts instead of just typecasting people based on looks. Doherty has 79 casting credits to her name and discovered actors such as James Dean, Warren Beatty, Robert Redford, Dustin Hoffman, and Glenn Close. According to director Tom Donahue, casting is a female-driven profession, and another casting director, Ronna Kress, notes that the Academy still sees casting directors as secretaries. And I heard this in my interviews too. I think I don't really think we are secretaries. Although Russell Robinson suggests, despite the subordinate and feminized nature of the job, some casting directors have significant influence and try to diversify the casting process. Indeed, the gendered practices of casting are really interesting when considering casting's historical evolution, right? If you think of the casting couch, that's kind of a euphemism for sexual harassment. That's where lots of bad stuff happened. However, more recently, the majority of casting directors are women. 80% of Italian casting directors are women, and 75% of Casting Society of America directors are women. Isn't that interesting? I find it fascinating. So what I want to do with my project is investigate casting from the inside to kind of investigate the profession's cultural and gender dynamics to see what's going on. It's going to take a really long time because I want to interview all sorts of people. To turn to My Brilliant Friend, when the trailer, posters, and publicity photos emerged from My Brilliant Friend, I probably, like many who read the novels, was struck by the face of the girl and adolescent performers. Who were they? Where did they come from? They look exactly, but kind of almost like I imagined they would. Like it was almost uncanny. So enter casting directors Laura Muccino and Sara Casani. Muccino is not new to the business, or wasn't. She's sister to actor Silvio and director Gabriele Muccino. She already made a name for herself casting the films Latin Lover and Suburra, and she cast both Gomorrah and Suburra, the series, so you've seen her work. And she cast Romanzo Criminale, she completed the casting of 000 and many other things. And the more I read about Muccino and Casani and their casting practice, the more fascinated I became. They're exceptional at finding and discovering kind of the authentic face, and that's a dictum frequently handed down by them with the directors with whom they work. They'll say, go find an authentic face. What does that mean? Okay, I have to find an authentic face. For example, Muccino explains her collaboration with Sollima on Romanzo Criminale, the series. Sollima, put it in Italian, a posto solatori non conosciuti, è stato il primo casting libero, senza la necessità del nome famoso per vendere il prodotto e avere una garanzia di successo. It was like a breakthrough when that happened. And later, with regards to her work in casting the film Suburra, Muccino notes that Sollima didn't want volti noti, right? And that she finds new faces ovunque. She finds them in amateur theater companies, acting schools, at the cinema, even on the street. And a casting practice that focuses upon the performer's face is not a new trend in the business, as noted in a 1958 article in Film Quarterly, where it says, no matter how elaborate the system became, one basic factor prevailed: the accent was always on the face. And that's something that Muccino says here. E quasi automatico leggendo una sceneggiatura immaginavi tutti. In casting the four faces of My Brilliant Friend, Muccino, Casani, and crew interacted with over 9,000 non-professional female children and adolescents. all of whom were required to be in and around Naples. And one critic dubs the casting process epic and notes that it was akin to the Gone with the Wind search for Scarlett O'Hara. And you see the casting call for the first season, which declares we'll meet children, girls, and boys exclusively from Campania that have not yet come to similar casting call recently. And for the season 2, it's really the same, but in season 1 they could have tattoos, and in season 2 they could not have tattoos for some reason. They didn't want to bother with getting rid of the tattoos. But everything else was the same. So apparently the vast majority of these kids never ever heard of Ferrante, and I find that really interesting as well. And this is a similar process to the early Hollywood casting pattern of face casting, where the director procured actors wherever they could, off the streets or wherever they happened to be shooting the film. So Costando underlines that when casting L'Amica Geniale, they were looking for classical faces, and clearly he and his team were willing to put in all the work, scouring Naples to find the right faces. In this article, The Faces of Ferrante, Miranda Papke puts forth, and this is I find this kind of problematic, Muccino and Casani got the faces right, populating the series with faces that are sloppier and saggier, more wrinkled, more weathered, and more crooked than many American readers will have imagined for these characters. She goes on to discuss how bedraggled, wild, and infirm, in particular, the women look, noting that Muccino and Casani understand what poverty looks like. Papke's emphasis is on the choice of faces that express an authentic experience of 1950s Neapolitan destitution. And this burden of corporeal delay, at least in Papke's assessment, is placed primarily on the women in the series, who are beaten, mentally unstable, and subjugated to the men in their lives. This ensemble cast of vanquished women speaks to the casting director's reliance upon what someone in 1978, Joseph Turo, outlines as credibility and visual balance, and Casani and Muccino basically use these terms without ever hearing of Joseph Turo, and I found that really interesting. It's so ingrained in the profession, right? Credibility ensures that characters will be believable and will not detract viewers from the narrative, while visual balance regards like how they're going to look vis-a-vis one another, and then how they'll fit together. So one particular challenge of casting L'Amica Geniale was finding 2 different sets of non-professional female performers who could both be credible and visually balanced with the rest of the group, and would be appealing to viewers inside and outside of Italy. So I asked them that, did you think of how are they going to appeal to Italian viewers and transnational viewers? And they said, yes, that was so stressful to think about how you're going to cast someone who would have this wide net of appeal. In casting the series, a lot of it came down to luck, as is clear in this Vanity Fair piece on the discovery of these 4 focal protagonists. So the 4 stars they chose had no professional acting experience at all. 15-year-old Gaia Gerace, who plays the older Lila, is the only one who'd ever taken acting classes. 16-year-old Marita Mazzucco plays Tina Lemu, auditioned after someone handed her a flyer at school. 11-year-old Elisa Del Genio accompanied her brother to an audition and was chosen while he was rejected for looking too Nordic. He's still apparently very unhappy about that. And 12-year-old Ludovica Nasti, who plays the younger version of Lila with savage intensity and who is equally Nordic in real life, said she approached the audition as if it were a game. So typically, non-professional children actors are super interesting. The non-professional actor adds a sense of authenticity to narrative, as audiences are not distracted by familiar faces like star casting, and in particular, with non-professionals cast locally, represent kind of the lived vitality of an area. And this is even more so with a child non-professional, who can be considered a blank slate and kind of just gushes realism and emotion. Unlike star casting, which can lead kind of visibility and status to a product and like bring in the bucks, the non-protagonist, as a colleague of ours, Catherine O'Rod, notes, I quote, becomes a kind of star attraction on the festival circuit, an object of curiosity, and a marker of authenticity. Child non-professionals are like that it makes something really important, authentic for a cinephilic audience. So as my project develops, I'm looking at L'Amica Geniale's child and adolescent non-professional females and kind of chart their lives pre and post these 2 characters, Lila and Regna. I'm particularly interested in how, in the series in real life, these actors perform girlhood and how they're received by fans. I follow 3 of them on Instagram because Mazzucco still today has not accepted my request, and I heard that she doesn't post. And they're really, it's just so interesting how they kind of perform like their characters and themselves as young kids at the same time. And what happens really frequently with non-professional actors is that they do one thing and then they're never in another product again because they're wedded to that one role. Everyone always remembers them as that one role, right? There are some exceptions with this, like that we can talk about later. We don't have time. We can email me. We can talk about it that way. But interestingly, this is not the case for Nasti, who's compared to Sofia Loren, currently has a role in Italy's longest-running soap opera, Al Sole, will play Anne Frank in an upcoming feature, and is the recipient of a really important prize at the Golden Globes. And you kind of can see, this is this interesting, like, performing girlhood that I found really interesting. She's super young. And also at stake is the issue of pay, as non-professionals become really cheap, and you don't even know if they're paid frequently. Like, their contracts are private, so you don't really know that. So as my book develops, I want to engage with, in the words of Catherine Driscoll, the difficult negotiations and performances of female adolescents, as these performances relate to a desire on the part of many for a representation of an authentic experience of youth. And you see them kind of performing themselves in these Instagram posts. After watching the documentary La Mia Amica Geniale, focusing on Matsuko and Gerace's Austrian friendship, and following several interviews and red carpet appearances featuring the quartet, my hunch is that this child actor's self-representation in interviews, premieres, and festivals is kind of conditioned by this international film TV industry, which places young actors in situations that are really profitable for the product, but really precarious or dangerous for the young girl. And this sense of precarity or danger is apparent in these images behind me. In the first, which is the series' most widespread images, headless girls are shown running towards a threat or from an enemy. And in this one, they feel kind of listless and glum as they read. And the sense of danger is etched in their faces and bodies, and the sense of imminent peril recalls Costanzo's assertion, who's the director. Naples is an open-air theater. Probably to defend themselves from violence, they always have to wear masks. Everyone there is an actor. Knowing a bit about the family lives of some of the 4 female actors, particularly Matsuko, who's super rich, this is a bit of a loaded claim. And Costanzo's marks on authentic peril, or how growing up in the streets of Naples translates into an authentic performance of poverty, resonates from this comment from co-producer Lorenzo Miele. He says, "We couldn't imagine American actresses playing Italian schoolgirls in poor areas of Naples in the 1950s. And just to one world of conclusion, my project, I hope, aims to explore such like loaded claims regarding the mechanisms by which kind of an authentic Italy is exported to transnational audiences." Thank you. It's 3:55. I was nervous.
Questions?
I'll do 5 minutes of questions before the university explodes or something.
No questions.
Amica Geniale was shot in a studio or in the real Naples?
It was shot in a. It's really cool. I'll find it super quick. It was shot. They built this. They built the town. They built the. But it's. I wanted to show you, but it's. They built a town by Caserta, right outside of Caserta. And there's these wonderful shots, these aerial shots that start looking at the little square in the middle, and then it zooms out with some sort of drone, and you see it's this imaginable, it's perfectly constructed studio, which gets at that authenticity thing, which I really like. It's, but it's, I think it's Andrew the images. Has anyone thought about casting before? I never really thought about it before, ever. Now I can't stop thinking about it.
How long do you think your project will take?
At least a few years, I imagine. A lot of it's because the interviews are going to take the longest amount of time, and I have to decide if I need to get, when I interviewed these folks, OSU, Ohio State told me I didn't need to get what's called IRB. I don't know if any of you have ever had to get IRB approval. It's like institutional review approval when you're dealing with human subjects. So when you're interviewing people, they need to make sure you're treating them ethically. And so if I'm doing this at a long-term scale, I have to that's gonna take it up a notch. But I do have one person who says they can give me Hollywood casting connections. And, I met Lorenzo Miele in Naples about a month ago, and he told me I could go to the set. So I really want to go to the set. He was at a conference I was at. He's like, I'll take you to the set. You can see the next filming. So I want to do a lot of stuff like that, which just takes longer than just a few consulting books and things. But I think it will be fun and challenging. Totally out of my comfort zone. So.
Other questions?
The percentage of female casting directors, was that a recent increase, or was there always a history of more female?
Yeah, there's always been a history. I need to get, that's one of my, I don't have, that's the most recent data I can get because I think someone was interested in collecting it. So what I need to get is the Annals of the Casting Society of America's data. My sense is that it's primarily female, and the opening up is towards male a little bit now, and that's because casting directors were frequently literally secretaries. The director would say, go do this, go fund them, go scour the streets and get these people, and then they kind of created a niche profession for themselves, right? And it was really, and there was a lot of mentoring. So a lot, like Lucino mentored Sara Kazani. Sara Kazani is now mentoring 2 other women right now to kind of train them in the industry. So a lot of people say it's maternal. They say no, it's not maternal, but it's more of a network of women who are trying to work together to protect one another and to get the pay and the legitimacy and but for now, like in Italy, they just got benefits. Like they didn't have any sort of benefits up until last June, so they rallied to get that. So that's good. And another thing about more casting directors are women, and this is what Lucino said, that if you want to even have a kid, being a director is really hard unless you have this. Whereas a casting, if you're doing a casting project, you can kind of choose, because she has 2 kids, and she said, I was going to either be a director or a casting director, and I had a kid, and I was like, I can't be a director, so I can try this because I have freedom to choose me from day to day. I found that interesting too. That's not the case, of course, with everyone.
Do you notice a difference from more of the auteur director types? Were they more active in their casting? I think of Puzzle Game, for example.
Yeah.
I know that's not your direct field, but
I asked them that question. I asked them that very question. Which directors or showrunners in TV or film want to be more hands-on and which give you more creative control? And they said, I can't, there were some of the questions they would answer directly and some of them they couldn't answer directly. So I can't give you any names, but I can tell you in television, there's a lot more creative control for the casting directors because it's such a collaborative art that they want to, whereas they said they worked with some directors, and I think she was talking about her brother, who had complete control because I guess her and her brother hate each other. I heard, and that they did not want to had to have the last word. That was the sense, and I did ask more broadly about other types of auteur directors, like Sorrentino or something like that, not less have any sort of say. So, they did tell a funny anecdote, and then I'll let you go. They said, I was asking about, what happens halfway through a series, like when you cast someone, how do you feel towards them as, Ciro or something like that, as it goes on? Do you watch with what you're feeling? And they said, oh, it's so hard because it's like we created them and then they go off in this trajectory, and sometimes we'll joke with them, like, you better listen to what the showrunner tells you because we can kill you off. So.
I have a friend who's a Thai-American actor, and he's in New York, and there's recently, the last year, there was a lot more on his Facebook, and maybe I'll connect you with him. He has a lot of issue with Hollywood, or even theater, he's done theater too, hiring non-Italian Americans, or hiring Italian American and he's gay, hiring non-LGBTQ people to play those roles. Any reflections or thoughts on that?
That's, there are 2 of the pieces I set up there, and I can send you the bibliography if you want to see it.
I saw the one that just came out in 2018.
And one, did I put 2018 up
But in
there?
2018, but Alfred Martin.
Okay, I think there's one more that I just came across last week that I might not have included. I'll send it to you. There's a huge amount of debate around this, as you might imagine. And I think when I talked with Machino and Kazani, I asked them this question, like, what do you think in terms of authenticity? You know, if you're casting someone, like, you know, and asked them about something, you know, and they said, well, you know, we want the best fit for the role, so we're going to go with whoever, unless we have direct voice of God from the director or the showrunner, we don't care, we're going to just pick the best fit for the role. So they try to go with colorblind casting as much as possible. But they said they're very aware of such polemics, more so in the US than in Italy.
Sure.
They're probably like, don't cast a gay character.
Any other questions before we conclude?
And if you have questions, you can email me.
Just Google her.
Yeah,
She'll
Google.
come up really easily.
I'm happy to send you anything if you're interested or answer questions.
And I'm sure she'll stay around for a couple of minutes. We don't have to run yet. So have a cannoli, chat with Professor Renga, and let's thank her one more time.